The nation of America, a country that is independent, free from those Europeans, truly a nation on its own. Or is it really? Countries are defined by their roots, whether they like them or not. We are a nation of settlers. Europeans in this case have defined the USA, made the USA how it is, and honestly, how are we not European? As a cultural Europeanist, I believe in the idea of cultural Europeanism. And if you're confused what I mean, this video will break down in 3 key points why we are truly European and why we need to bring the US back to European ideals in order to preserve our country. The USA goes back to 13 colonies, founded by Britain, but many of these colonies influenced by other countries like the Dutch and the French. The founders were kings who brought their people into their colonies. We're taught it was just pilgrims who fled for a better life against tyranny and religious freedom. But the reality was there was more to this. Many people flocked to America still loyal and connected by their rulers. The kings had many settlers come into these regions and settle in to colonize them. The US is no different. Settlers founded this nation and started this country. Our ideas and culture as a nation are European and not independent from that. Even when the founding fathers did eventually start their rebellion against the king, it was never about the Constitution, but on keeping the people united. We had the Articles of Confederation, and what happened? It failed. So we went back to the drawing board. Our nation is about the European origins and how they defined our nation on these factors. An ambitious, Christian, English-speaking nation, meaning that we must preserve this, even when it is European. But don't you get it? Do you not see that we're a nation that back when it was European was much healthier, much stronger? We had an identity. What can we say about Europe and its culture? Why is Europe worth it? We have our own culture, yes, like apple pie, cowboys, jump into kind of attitude, strong work ethics, the nuclear family structure, the American flag, the stars of the US, hamburgers, states' ability to govern, hence the United States, and much more. But all of it does derive solely from Europe. Freedom and justice for all? Europe. These freedoms were back with Britain way before John Locke even. The food? European origins. The burgers German. Christianity is the defining point of the US. From Europe. Our architecture is Europe originated. Even the Statue of Liberty. Our culture derives from Europe, meaning if you want to preserve our country, we must go back to our European roots with kingship, Christianity, faith, duty, and chastity. European ethics and cultures are based off the Bible and has key points such as strong rule with correct freedoms for its citizens, powerful work ethic, competitiveness to be the greatest, the Industrial Revolution, chastity, self-control, and much more great things. Europe is what's needed. Why was it Europe became the greatest and most successful powers in the world that defined the 18th, 19th, and the beginning of the 20th century? I will admit when European empires have done wrong, but overall, they have done greatness for our world, and the US is no different. If I showed you 2 pictures, one in New York and the other in London or Paris, could you tell the difference? Without the Big Ben, not really. We had beauty, and were in touch with our heritage. But what killed it? Sorry, really sorry. I just wanted to quickly ask if you could please like and subscribe to the video. I'm really trying to change things up and get video production better. I hope this has gone a lot better and smoother for everyone. Just a like and sub would be really appreciated. Thank you. The murder of our European culture. Politics got in the way and attacked Europeanism.
America is the only country that was founded not on a race, ethnicity, or nationality, but on an idea. Limited government, because the founders of America believed first and foremost in liberty. When first adopted as an American motto, shortly after the American founding in 1776, it referred to the 13 American colonies becoming one nation. Over time, however, most Americans understood the motto to mean one people from many backgrounds.
What worries me about America is that I see her increasingly trying to act like other nations. It worries me to see that so many Americans are drawn to the ossified ideas of Europe. That's the old world. It was old in 1776 even, when America broke away from it. Why would America want to reverse its own revolution?
Stress on freedom, on individuality, on self-reliance. But what really makes Americans fundamentally different is that for every American, life starts off as a blank slate.
We have freedoms that you don't have in other places in the world: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly. We have constitutional freedoms guaranteed.
You notice that Providence has been pleased to give this one connected country to one united people. Well, that could mean anything. That could mean freedom-loving people, that a people descended from the same ancestors, speaking the same language, professing the same religion, attached to the same system of government, similar in their manners and customs.
Bad actors split the US from Europe and made the United States into its own thing, which leads to the horrible consequences of today. We tore down our architecture for meaningless modernist buildings that have turned our country just like the perfect globalist world for the world to dump on. We destroyed our way of life and our beauty for capitalist endeavors. We let greed wipe our nation and stepped into foreign wars that did not concern us. We let immigration happen on this scale, and now is turning our country no longer European. They don't assimilate into the dominant culture, and now there are on the streets envious of our once great country. Now that we left our European roots and said, we're a nation of immigrants, or America, Mofwida, we lost everything. Christianity has been falling since the 1960s. Poverty, rape, porn, school shootings, suicide, drugs, and more destructive behaviors have been on the rise. Marriage is declining as divorce is rising. Family lines are now becoming obsolete as the idea of the family is dying in our society. All of this started happening as we left from our European roots. And you mean to tell me that we're not European? I find this idea idiotic.
The point is this: whether they vote Republican or don't vote Republican, what's the gamble? We're gambling on our entire civilizational inheritance. And that's not an exaggeration to say that. Everything that makes America great very easily could be lost when you switch out the population for another one. When you take a population from Europe that built up Germany and Britain and France and Italy and all those great countries and put them in America, a lot can be lost when you remove those people and now put in place the people that built Nigeria and the people that built Brazil and the people that built Mexico and India. Here's the thing: America is a European country. I mean, the character and the composition of the country up until recently is European. And the thing is that I believe that only Europeans can perpetuate American civilization, which means, in other words, even if every American was a leftist today, barring immigration, there's a potentiality where in 3 centuries, you're still going to have a European nation, and they're not going to be leftist, and they will still have the capacity to perpetuate European civilization.
Okay.
If you switch out that population with Hispanics, I don't think there's a scenario where 300 million Hispanics on this land perpetuate American civilization.
The lies we were told were America is about freedom. But freedom of what? Freedom to do weed? Freedom to play video games all day? Freedom to become a furry? Freedom to destroy oneself? Freedom to do any addiction you want? I don't get this whole freedom complex. We're the most free country the same way your average iPad kid has the freedom to be on their iPad and consume whatever they want all day. All it's creating is self-destructive behaviors and ultimately destroying our heritage of America. Take open borders, for example. If we let millions of people enter into our nation while staying with these low birth rates, you will start to see that this nation will no longer become European. That's not to say an Hispanic cannot become American, but that is to say that America cannot become anything else. America cannot be run any other way other than the European way. Not Hispanic, not Chinese, only a European white civilization. Our nation must also embrace traditional values, which includes rejecting the emptiness of democracy and its deceptive promises that will ultimately crush our nation. European culture with monarchs have proven to be the best ways to run a country, so why not have architecture and our current system more like Europe? The other thing I want to debunk is the idea of the individual. and the idea that America is about individualism, which is wrong. America is not about your individual rights. To a certain degree, sure, you can make an argument for that, but most of it, especially from the Federalist perspective, was on the basis of we unite as a country, with one English-speaking nation. We have one culture, one nation, and we're all under God, united by the Lord. And that was the idea. It was not about, from out of many one. It was always about out of many states, we are one country. And that we got to unite as a nation and ignore our own individual desires to unite under the Lord. And that's what America should be about, and that's how many of the Founding Fathers, especially the Federalists, believed. And one more thing. So, the blank slate theory. This is proven false so many times. It's not real, it's fake, it's not true. And if you want to learn more, because I don't even want to talk about the blank slate too much, I'll probably make another video about it in the future. But if you want to know more, you can watch Endeavor's video about it. I would highly recommend it, as he gives way more detail than I would give. But my breakdown of it is just the blank slate is this individual idea, but it's very fake and false. That's not how God designed humans, and this is just a human idea, not God's idea. The last thing I want to address too is that I know there's a split between the Catholic Church and the Protestants from the north. You also have a bit of Russia. We'll deal with Russia. Russia's not really like part of European culture technically, but they also are. That's a little bit of another thing. I would include Russia really with the rest of Europe. They're European, just in a different way. But back to my main point. I would say that, because I'm not a Catholic or a Protestant, by the way, I'm neither. I identify with really none. How I see it, though, is that Protestant or Catholic, as long as it's really projecting our Lord, that's kind of the main key point, which means that I think really you would have to project whatever's in the Bible. I don't really stay loyal to the Protestants or Catholics. I think they need to stick with whatever's in the Bible, and that's how they go from there. Nothing really to do with quote-unquote tradition. And when I say that, I'm not referring to the tradition you might think. I'm referring to like how Catholics might have their traditions, and how they hold, their church and stuff, and the Pope. I'm not agreeing with the Pope there. I think that's a tradition where it can be overridden by biblical evidence. So whatever the Bible says, that's the ultimate goal. And that's kind of all I really have to say about this. I'm not Protestant, but I'm also not Catholic. That's just my take with it. As long as America's projecting Christian values and how Europe and its Christian culture, that's really what matters more. Not really if it's Protestant or Catholic. And now for the conclusion. Our nation is amazing, but it was good because we were European. We were a country of Christian ideals, of God, a nation of settlers who bravely risked their lives for the countries that they fought for. Did they do bad? Yes. Would you risk your life to do something impossible, though? They founded our nation and helped establish our country. We were once a European cultural country. And just know, just because we're not all white anymore doesn't mean we became racially white. But that means that we get people to assimilate with European ideals. That means being a European American. That means making America more like Britain, in which our citizens can be ensured the safety and best working system to keep our nation holy and back to its former glory. This is Bennett HPE, signing out. Christ is King.